Hey viewers, welcome to another Games Casual Pro Gamer. Today we're doing match 4 of TSLPolt versus MStephano, which is the finals in the tournament which you just saw, the Asus something tournament something. And yeah, we've already seen the first 3 games and we are now going into the 4th one. So it is 2 versus 1 at this moment, and I conveniently forgot to well, what the score is, and therefore I cannot spoil it. So if you haven't seen the other games, go watch them now. Anyhow, we see a very early drone scout as well as an overlord scouting in the right direction. So this is Shakura's Plateau. And Shakura's Plateau has 4 spawn positions obviously, and there is no forced corners, no opposite side spawning. What's it called? I have no idea. Once again going in the right direction with his drone scout. It has been there like that every game, so good pro senses there. And yeah, it's obviously kind of a 50-50 shot if your opponent is right next to you. And on map 1, yeah, there were cross positions, that's what it's called. There were cross positions, and he knew that because that was a forced cross position map, and yeah, therefore he scouted the right direction that time. But yeah, this time also has the overlord in here. Overlord obviously easier to manage because it cannot get attacked until there are marines out. And we see the scout coming out from the Terran player. Terran player probably going for another bunker. So because he doesn't see a second barracks and he's pretty sure that he's safe, he's going to fast expand here. And the spawning pool following directly afterwards. So first extractor going down. The same goes for the Terran player. He is going to fast expand as well, I think. Yep. And he will be going for his first oh, 2 extractors actually. A refinery, sorry. 2 refineries at the same time, really early on. So going for some mech play maybe. Because, well, if you go marines, then you really don't need all that gas. So yeah, the overlord that is still here might actually be able to spot that and is going to at least attempt to do so. So we can actually see that. So yeah, the bunker going down. Once again, same principle in the early game. And it hasn't worked out so far. So let's see. Yeah, he did actually see the one refinery, but not the other one, and he is keeping an eye on this expansion, whereas the enemy has seen, well, this. So he has seen everything. Yeah. No surprises there because Zerg obviously cannot wall off. So up until the moment there are Zerglings out, there's really nothing to hide. Or, well, you aren't able to hide anything. So 2 marines out, 4 Zerglings out. Yeah, not huge armies obviously, early game. And what is this going to be? Another command center, wow. That is a really early 3rd base. And factory going down. And the expansion started well before the factory was done. Meaning that he is going to go for macro mode here. And he is going to obviously fly over this expansion to make sure he can farm with that as soon as possible. We see the little drone scout coming in, and the drone scout is not going to see this expansion obviously, but the overlord might actually be able to if he flies it all the way around. But he flew it to here, I think. Yeah, there it is. So he has the vision over all of the units leaving the base. No, I don't think it gets that far. Let's see how far it actually reaches. Oh, the other guy. No, you can only see this expansion and that's it. In the meantime, yeah, the Zergling running away from the watchtower, seeing the 2 Hellions coming. He's been doing the 6 Hellions most of the time, already up to 4, and oh, there was pause again. If we go into the production tab, then we don't see anything. Well, 1 Marine, but that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, only 4 Hellions this time. All 4 of them here, scouting for the other expansions. Because if he goes for a 3rd expansion and the Zerg player doesn't, that gives him a big advantage in the resources. But it's also quite risky because you don't have a lot of army. Sorry, you have only very few units out, which means that you have to scout what your opponent is doing. And by placing this spine crawler here, he isn't really able to, well, to see anything of that, because, yeah, the Queen plus the spine crawler should be able to hold off the Hellions. Not actually kill them, but make it, well, very hard for them to move past, because he needs something to block this this part. Meantime, yeah, he scouts again, and the Overlord, is there an Overlord here? Yes, there is. Thought I saw a blue dot there on the map. And setting fire to whatever this is. Yeah, the span crawler getting moved up a little bit. It is going to be the protection against these Hellions, and he just wants to make sure they have a harder time getting into his base. Obviously they can still run past it quite easily, because now it's no longer blocking the ramp, and yeah, he is blocking the ramp with the rest of his unit. So still only well, 4 Hellions out, 15 Marines now, and starting to build tanks. 2 tanks out, 2 tanks doing him a lot of good. We've seen tanks being really efficient in previous games. And obviously tanks are really good against this composition, because all of these small units will take a lot of splash damage because they work in large groups. 5 supply depots here, making sure that he blocked off his whole ramp, but nothing is coming in. And yeah, apparently going for the let's make a ton of Zerglings once again. Let's see the production tab. That's not the production tab. That's actually spending. Interesting. The production tab showing us that he is building mutilisks. I didn't even see the spire, but I wasn't actually looking for buildings. And he actually is building some mutilisks. And yeah, he has only a few Zerglings this time, only 20, where in the last game he had like 170 at some point. Well, at the first attack, and the mutilisks coming in, and they weren't scouted at all because there is nothing out for this guy. The engineering base are down, so he can build the turrets, but for now the Marines are enough to hold this off, and he's going to attempt to get this whole base with the Zerglings and the Zerglings, Banelings plus mutilisks. He should be able to do that pretty nicely, because the Zerglings take down a command center in virtually no time. It is in the red, and it is going to fall if he just keeps attacking it. And oh, it may actually survive here. It is going to survive. So clutch play with the Marines chasing off the mutilisks. There weren't enough ground units to hold off the Marines, and therefore they could start attacking the expensive units, which are the mutilisks. Mutilisks obviously very expensive, and you don't want to lose them to cheap units. So yeah, saving the base there, spending a little bit of minerals and time on the reparations of that, no, the repair of that. Reparations, something completely different. So cancel the refinery. Not a big deal. It's not an expensive thing. It's just annoying. But he has 3 bases up, so he has still has 5 gas geysers, and started building turrets now. The Mutalisk not really good against the turrets, obviously, because that's what the turrets do. They make sure that the Mutalisk cannot just attack you, and combined with these Marines, he should be fine against the air units. So I wonder what the plan is now. Sorry, having some hiccups here. Yeah, the Terran going into vehicle weapons here, as well as infantry weapons level 3. And submarines, a sensor tower. Yeah, we've seen them use that in previous games as well. I didn't really comment on that. I don't know how common they are, sensor towers. And taking out a few turrets while being built. And he is going to be able to do some damage here to these production facilities. Taking out the reactor on one of the barracks. And immediately building a new one. Because, well, it helps you put out those large numbers of Marines, obviously. And we are just going to follow this. So the sensor tower being built now over here, so that he can keep track of everything happening there. And yeah, small Marine force, I think there are less Marines than there are Mutalisks, but they hold off the Mutalisks anyway. So another turret going down. Really in defensive mode here, the Terran player. But since he has 3 bases, it's not too big of a deal. Although the Zerg player, realizing that he was doing well and he was keeping the Terran base under control, already has 4 bases out and a huge army. Ground army, that is. So 4 versus 3 bases is still not really good for the Zerg player, but since he hasn't lost a lot of units, let's see how much he actually lost. Yeah, he lost 3,300 to 2,500, but yeah, that's not too big of a deal. It's he has more mining. Zerg is kind of based on losing units, so it's not a really big deal if he loses a few more units. It would be a big deal if he lost twice as many. But yeah, you can see that it equalizes quite nicely. There is only a 10% difference between the two, while there is a 33% difference in the amount of bases they have and the amount of mining they probably have. Although the income, no, it's the harvests are pretty much the same, and we see a lot of destruction by these Banelings. Banelings doing a good job of keeping of cleaning the way to the bases, while the Mutalisk just gives them vision and make sure that they don't run into huge clumps of siege tanks. Because siege tanks against Banelings, yeah, that's not a really fair fight. And once again, all of the Zerglings getting taken out by the Marines and the siege tanks. And yeah, new wave coming in. So the Mutalisks really doing a good job. They're spread out a little bit at the moment, taking out a large number of tanks, and is now going to work on the supply depots, even though, yeah, that's normally not what you want. You normally want to get rid of the SCVs, because the SCVs are just, yeah, they bring in the money, and if you can take them out, that is exactly what you want, obviously. So taking out this base and now going to continue. While we see a Thor. Can you heal Thors? Oh no, no, never mind. Optical illusion there. There was a Marine behind the Thor. I was like, huh, did they change that? But yeah, they didn't, fortunately. Thor getting taken out by the Banelings. Well, not actually out yet, but it's really close. And yeah, not magic boxing as Mutas, which is a technique you can use against the Thors to make sure that they don't do a lot of splash damage to your Mutas. You spread them out and then you lock them in place, making sure that the distance between them is large enough for the Thor splash damage to not reach other Mutalisks. So if they hit one Mutalisk, it won't splash onto others, which it definitely did right there. So, what are we now going to do? Oh wow. Oh wow. Those were two Banelings taking out a whole group of Zerg, Marines. And that is definitely not what you want to have happen to you. Yeah, I wonder why there aren't more burrowed Banelings on the map, because Banelings are so hard to run into Marines. But yeah, you can easily burrow them and then yeah, walk when the Marines walk over them, unburrow them and suicide them in. But yeah, I guess there are some disadvantages to that, because nobody ever does that. At least not in matches I've seen. And it seems such a good tactic, because you can take out huge clumps of Marines. And there are no detectors on Terran, in Terran matches. Only the scan, but you're not going to scan every position. In fact, you're not even going to scan before running in the Marines. Because the Marines, yeah, they're not worth a whole lot. So obviously you don't want to burrow all of your Zerglings, that would be stupid. Because your Banelings, sorry. I've been saying Zerglings all this time. Well, whatever. You did understand what I said. The green landmines. So, Terran player, yeah, it's really hard to spot the red on the purple from a distance. Obviously, if you're really close to your monitor, or if you have a very big monitor, it's easy to see. But I only have, I think, 17-inch monitor, so it's not really like the biggest ever. And sometimes I have some trouble with these kind of well, small groups running over a color that is similar to it. And the Marines taking out another base here. Wow, no response at all from the Zerg player, and at least he does have a burrow now. And I'm not sure, yeah, he realizes they have burrowed, so he's probably going to scan this at some point. Or not, or he's just going to run out. So losing 3 bases there in a matter of minutes. And yeah, now it's just a full frontal assault on this base. And I think I should rewind this a little bit, because I obviously missed quite a bit on that last attack. Yeah, let's rewind it to here. So this attack is going on in the meantime. And yeah, this is just a huge mech army. And the huge mech army is going to creep forward, going to take out whatever is there. Yeah, this is when the second base got taken down. And obviously because of this this mech army being over here, yeah, you can see with the tanks it is impossible to support that unless you have something like drops or something like that, but even that's hard to do. At least he has all the drones still there. But yeah, another big amount of Marines coming in. Let's watch the units here. And yeah, we see there is not a whole lot of difference here in how many units they have. The income tab shows us that there are, however, a lot more drones than there are what are they called, SCVs. And that means that the army of the Terran player is larger than that of the Zerg player. So the Zerg player trying to defend with Broodlords now, and Broodlords obviously very good against tanks and Marines, but they are really expensive, so you really don't want to lose them. And that's exactly what's going to happen now. He is going to lose all of those units, and Broodlords are so expensive that, yeah, that's it. So, Terran player winning the game. And yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there, why he lost his momentum, the Zerg player. He seemed to be doing very well with his Mutalisk, but I guess he should have expanded earlier or something like that, because this third base was crazy early. And that means that you're going to have a lot of Resources, let's see if we can actually see that. Resources? No. I guess that's spending. Yeah, let's see spending. So, yeah, the Zerg player spending more, less on technology because, well, the Thors are really expensive. And the army of the Zerg player is a lot larger. That is quite funny. Well, he spent a lot more on that. But, yeah, he did have more of an income, so I guess that would be the reason. Yeah, not a lot else to say about this. Interesting match, to say the least. And I wouldn't have expected the third base to stay up this long. Well, it didn't die, so it stayed up quite long. No, it died once, I think. But yeah, he definitely got to use it for quite a bit, even though he had to turtle a little bit in the early game, stay in his own base until he had the big units out, and then he could just take out all of the small units from the Zerg player, and unfortunately killing him in the process. So, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. GG.